Hello everyone, my name is Robin, and today I am going to share all of the RWBY news that we can expect to come out of the RTX convention that will be held in Austin, Texas from July 7th to July 9th, versus what is purely up to speculation, and where Volume 10 of RWBY fits into that. Can we or can we not expect it? I will start by discussing Volume 10, and then I will talk about the rest of what the panel might have to offer. And to be perfectly clear, I do not work for Rooster Teeth, I never have. I am sharing this to arm you with as complete of a picture as the public has. This is less of a news video and more of a speculation video. I will share some info that you probably have not heard, but my overall goal is to arm you with the right expectations leading into July 7th to 9th. We do not have the news yet, and you should absolutely expect the RWBY panel at RTX 2023 to touch on Volume 10 to some degree. It will be held on Friday, July 7th at 3:45 p.m. Central Time. There will be some news of Volume 10, whether that news is positive or negative. The lack of it would still be news. Volume 10 has not been greenlit yet as far as the public knows, and I believe that that is still true. In layman's terms, being greenlit means being given a budget, so the fact that it's not greenlit yet means that they probably don't have the money to make it. From my perspective, that's the key. They need to look for funding. I don't believe that Volume 10 has been greenlit yet at all. But that's not to say that it can't be. It will likely take some time, and we'll hear about it at whatever future convention whenever it does, or maybe out of the blue one day when Rooster Teeth starts hiring en masse and it's impossible to hide what it's for. But for right now, they're waiting to find something that works before they can start making it. Rooster Teeth has not behaved in any way that indicates that they are working on Volume 10. In fact, everything so far points toward the opposite, that they have not started. So I will start by sharing what Rooster Teeth has said. Rooster Teeth sent out an email titled, "Here's everything you need to know about RWBY at RTX." Inside it is the RWBY panel's description, saying, "Join the cast and crew of RWBY for a behind-the-scenes discussion about Volume 9, including a screening of never-before-seen deleted animatics. Then look back on an incredible decade of RWBY as we discuss the 10th anniversary of this one-of-a-kind series with special guest Neith Ohm." Neith Ohm, the brother of Monty Ohm and the voice of Lai Ren, is a special guest because he has not been able to attend RTX before, so he is likely going to say a few words about how the team has carried Monty's legacy forth in all of this time, how they are continuing their story that they were always there making along with Monty and have had to do without Monty ever since he passed. The email then goes on to talk about autograph signings, exclusive early access to merchandise including a 10th anniversary line, a new episode of the RWBY Grimm Campaign tabletop RPG show, they're likely having a panel of that at the convention, Ruby Rose and Yang Xiaolong appearing at the con as VTubers, and so on. Yang wasn't mentioned in the email, but it was confirmed later that she would be a VTuber at the convention in whatever capacity that is. And that is the full email. Notice how they do not mention Volume 10 or anything of the show's future at all. The panel description is discussion about Volume 9 and its deleted content, then looking back. I don't intend to come here to spout doom and gloom, I don't take joy in making this video, I just want to be realistic here that talking about the past does not indicate news about the future. If they had something to say, they would say it, and they would let us know in this panel description. Some people have found that Rooster Teeth has a job posting out right now for lead animator via contract, because of course it's contract work, it can't be full-time, as well as several internship positions. People look at that and think that it sounds like it could be for RWBY. But the difference is that RWBY is made by way more than just animators, and more than that, it's made by more than just one lead animator. Overall, one job posting doesn't indicate a full production when we know that there are currently a lot more vacancies. Even in a world where RWBY is outsourced to a different studio, they wouldn't have only one animator in-house. That lead animator is much more likely there for Death Battle, which is currently still going on at Rooster Teeth. Another thing of note is that Issa Badiola, an episode director on RWBY Volume 9, as well as the person who created my new channel art, was let go a couple weeks ago. If she had more episodes of RWBY to direct, she would still be working there and directing them. And that all being said, here's how I think the RTX panel's discussion about RWBY Volume 10 is going to go. Carrie Shawcross or Eddie Rivas or Laura Yates will take the microphone and say, "We don't have any Volume 10 news to share with you right now. We do not have a green light yet, but we are continuing to work with our partners to make something happen." Maybe something will have changed by RTX. Maybe by the time the convention rolls around, they will be able to say something more promising than that. To be clear, I'm not telling you not to be optimistic. Be optimistic if you want, but I don't want anyone to attend the panel or follow along on social media thinking that Volume 10 will be announced, that it is guaranteed, or that it has to happen. And again, I do believe that Volume 10 will eventually get made. Just because they don't have the announcement right now for the RTX panel doesn't mean they won't announce it in the future. That is the state of where RWBY is right now. This is not to say that the series is dead, but it has been in limbo while Rooster Teeth has been likely searching for different avenues to make something work for years, well before they had to let anybody go. I'm sure that many crew members asked Carrie Shawcross or some other head honchos during Volume 9's production like, "Hey, how is the progress on that next green light? Will I still have a job after Volume 9 is over?" And the best answer they could receive was, unfortunately, "We're working on it." And Rooster Teeth will continue to look until they find something that works. Personally, again, I do believe that Volume 10 will eventually get made in some fashion, but I wouldn't expect that news soon. And this video isn't meant to be a downer, just realistic. But putting Volume 10 aside, I do need to talk about everything else we can expect to hear about at the RTX RWBY panel. What RWBY news or properties are actually coming up, with more details that are waiting to be shared right now. First and most definitely is news about the crossover movie Justice League and RWBY Superheroes and Huntsmen Part 2. For those who don't know, Part 2 has been finished before Part 1 even came out, or very close to finished. It was developed in-house at Rooster Teeth despite being written and produced partly outside of Rooster Teeth. When the animators, compositors, that whole team was let go, it was because there was no more work for them to do. Thus, all of their work was finished. By this point now, the movie is likely done and waiting to be released, and we as the audience are just waiting to hear on the word. Second, the RWBY Volume 9 Blu-ray and DVD release date will get announced. That is still being made, and the RWBY Fairytales of Remnant 2D animated miniseries has been confirmed to be included on those discs. For anybody not familiar, that is a series of canon in-universe fairy tales that got animated. Third, the RWBY Volume 9 original soundtrack is also set to come out soon. I am personally expecting the RWBY panel to announce its release date, or at least a somewhat specific window. Casey Lee Williams had tweeted that more than half of the music was completely written before Volume 9 even began airing. I also believe that that means that all they needed to do was finish writing the other half of the songs and then actually record the music itself and then mix and master it and get it ready for distribution. Casey also had said that the wait time would not be as long as past volumes. Personally, I am interpreting that as not as long of a wait as the more recent volumes, because as each volume has come out, the soundtrack for it had been released later and later and later from the summer until Volume 8 was released literally on New Year's Eve of 2021. And next, as I alluded to earlier, they will likely talk about how there will be a RWBY Grimm campaign tabletop RPG panel at the convention, and that RWBY and Yang will likely have a panel or a booth somewhere where they will appear as VTubers. And they will also announce the merchandise that I talked about. That will usually take about 5 to 10 minutes. Next, the RWBY Arrowfell video game, assuming you haven't forgotten about it. They will probably announce that its Xbox and PC versions just got an update for the Japanese voiceover to coincide with the game's Asia release. And they will also mention that the Justice League and RWBY crossover movie Part 1's Japanese dub is releasing as well. That is all of the projects and news that we do know is coming out for RWBY right now, and that thus they would probably talk about at the convention. Other than that, though, it has been a while since the last RWBY novel from E.C. Myers. Myers wrote 3 novels, as well as the original Fairytales of Remnant book that the miniseries is based on. His books are generally liked, and they provide a lot of insight into the larger world of the show, and they are also canon because they are signed off by Eddie Rivas and Carrie Shawcross. As for what characters that book would be about, is speculation for another time. They might also announce another season of that RWBY Fairytales of Remnant miniseries, given the fact that the previous one only adapted half of the original fairy tales from the book. It would also give them an excuse to animate the full story of the girl who fell through the world, Alex's fairy tale from RWBY Volume 9, which was not present in that book. Lastly, and take this with much more than just a grain of salt, there might be another season of RWBY Ice Queendom. At the Anime Expo panel last year, it was lightly hinted that Rooster Teeth and the Japanese crew were talking about future work together. If that was true and ever does come true, I personally don't see that sort of thing being announced for at least another year or two, but it could happen this RTX, I guess. That is all as far as news or speculation for this video. I hope I presented my thoughts well and that this doesn't get taken out of context. I am always partially aware that I need to present myself well enough that if the video does well and gains a lot of traction, that it doesn't get picked apart and scrutinized. My previous video about the situation at Rooster Teeth had some of that, but the larger viewer base didn't quite understand how unprecedented that mass exodus from Rooster Teeth was, and how it did signal something despite the fact that most animated projects have similar contract work. Rooster Teeth's production was playing by different rules, so to speak, and if they are now going to continue RWBY, they have to secure budgets and workers step by step to make it happen. I want RWBY to see all of the future success that it can. I want as many former crew members who want to be involved as possible, but it will never be 100% of them. It won't even be 50 or even 25%. But to me, as long as the writers and enough directors are there to continue the story as it is meant to be told, whether the rest of the pipeline is in-house or contracted or outsourced, that's still enough of a victory. And I don't believe that with what they're facing, Kerry Shawcross or anyone else on the team is willing to let RWBY go the way of Genlock Season 2. They want Monty's legacy to live for him, and not for some sake of having the show continue in a way that does not secure his vision that they have constantly been fighting to keep and constantly been maintaining after his passing, just as they were there to do before he passed. As always, all of my sources are linked in the description below. Like and subscribe to stay up to date for further RWBY news. By July 11th or 12th, I will have a video up on whatever the RTX RWBY panel says or doesn't say about Volume 10. But aside from Volume 10, what RWBY news do you hope comes out of RTX? Let me know down below. I'll see you next time. I'm Robin Rising. Have a good one.